bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. Ready? This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen. Here we go! Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate. We love to argue. You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
And a good Tuesday undefeated morning, Birds fans. You got your Mac and Mac guys back here early and Adam on a Tuesday. Yes, the Eagles will. Well, no, maybe not. John, you told us yesterday you don't think the whole team will get together till tomorrow, right? Chomping at the bit.
Yeah,
I know Eagle fans are Eagle players chomping at the bit to get back at it.
I doubt it. Nobody likes to practice, but maybe.
Come on, you heard me say undefeated, right? If they were listening, they'd hear me say undefeated. Isn't that motivation enough to say, let's get this thing going again?
Hey, man, you're undefeated with the method they're using. So, Wednesday is practice. That's when you get back to practice. No need for extra work.
They're famous for a walk-to Wednesdays. You sure it's going to be a practice and not a walk-to?
I think it's going to be a practice because they had so much time off. So I think it's going to be a traditional practice. But you never know with this team. You never know. I would be shocked if it was a walkthrough Wednesday. I think we're going to see a real practice, as real as they can be in the modern era.
I'm kind of shocked that they're not practicing today, but that's just me. I'm probably too old school in that way, but the Eagles will get back to work at some point this week. Johnny Mack thinks full-blown practice tomorrow, and there at practice will be a former Eagle who's been out of the way for the last month and a half, but he's returning to the Eagles, at least on the practice squad. Greg Ward re-signs with the Birds yesterday. I'm a fan. Even though
so are the Eagles, by the way.
They surely are. They waited the 6 weeks they had to, as per NFL regulations. He was released with a injury designation, which means the Eagles could not re-sign him at the earliest for 6 weeks. Well, the 6 weeks have come and gone, which means Greg Ward is eligible to be back on the Eagles, and he is just that on the practice squad. And even though I'm a fanboy, he's got no chance to play for this team this year, does he?
Oh, sure, he's got a chance. Remember, you have 3 practice squad elevations for each player on the practice squad. So, if they come into a week, the Eagles coaching staff has proven that they will look at the opponent that week, and if they feel they need a different punt returner, say, or a different look in the slots, then, Quez Watkins isn't, we talked about it a little bit yesterday, isn't a natural slot receiver. If they want one of those guys for a particular week, they might elevate him and let him play.
Okay.
Why not? But, great guy, great in the locker room, was the leader of that room. I think a lot of people forget back in the summer. He's been around for a while now. So, it can't hurt. I mean, they do have 4 wide receivers on the practice squad. Which I don't get.
That's why I said there's no way he's going to play, because they've got 3 guys ahead of him on the practice squad.
But he walks into that building. He's probably ahead of the guy. He's certainly ahead of Devin Allen. I mean, there's no question about that. And Auden Tate, he's certainly ahead of him. Deion Kane, you could argue, might be a little bit ahead because he had somewhat of a strong summer. But I think he walks into the door as sort of at the top end to all the practice squad receivers. But I think they're going to make another move that you don't need for. It'll probably be Auden Tate more than anybody else. They worked out John Reed, the old Penn State corner. Everybody's excited about that because he's from Mount Laurel and St. Joe's Prep. Maybe they're looking at another corner to put on the practice squad. I'm talking about. Don't get you got to make sure people get really excited about this stuff. But yeah, they're probably not going to keep 4 wide receivers on the practice squad for long.
And when you told me yesterday Greg Ward was back, I had not seen yet. So I asked you, well, who'd they take off the practice squad? I didn't even realize they had an opening on the practice squad. So signing Greg Ward was no problem whatsoever. All they had to do was bring him back. But now they're full up on the practice squad. And if they're going to sign someone else for another position to get better balance on their practice squad, I would agree with you. It's probably going to be a wide receiver that's going to go. And again, for those who haven't been watching Bird 365 from day one, and we're up to show number 390 today. Yeah, I've been a Greg Ward fan the entire time. Does the fact that, do you think he had a handshake deal with the Eagles that in 6 weeks, I'm definitely coming back to you guys? Because he could have signed with anybody else.
Yeah.
The Eagles gave him an injury designation. Doesn't mean that he couldn't have signed immediately with another team, and he has been just waiting in limbo for the last 6 weeks. Doesn't that tell you something?
Well, I could tell you 2 things. Good. Yeah, he had a handshake deal. It was all, wink, wink. We'll bring you back when we can. He wasn't ready to contribute. He had that toe injury. So, he was making a push for a roster spot. I think people kind of forget. It wasn't like he was going to be cut. But then he missed most of camp with that toe injury. And I was told it was a 4-week injury at the time, and he wasn't going to be ready for the start. So they went this route. If you play somebody on injured reserve, which they did, and you don't work out an injury settlement, they're done for the season before you can't. In other words, if you play somebody on IR before game 1, they're done for the season. Unless
you designate them for return. They didn't think.
No, you can't do that. You can do that now. You can do that after week 1. You can designate anybody to return. But if you get placed on IR in the preseason before week 1, you're done. You're done for the year.
Before cutdowns. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Unless you work out an injury settlement, you wait the time, and then you can bring him back at a certain point, which is tied to how long the injury settlement is, plus I believe 3 weeks on top of it. So that entire time, you can sign with anybody else. The team that is trying to skirt the system, so to speak, is the one that's penalized a little bit. So it tells you one of 2 things. Greg really likes the Eagles and vice versa, which is true, or not a lot of interest either in other places, which could be true as well. We've talked about Greg a lot. Great, work ethic, great guy in the building, somewhat limited, strictly a slot receiver, doesn't have a ton of speed, all those things, but he's secure as a punt. A lot of ways as a punt returner, he's exactly like Britton Covey. I mean, he's very stable, he's very secure, but he doesn't have a lot of explosiveness, and that's the problem with Britton Covey as well. And as a receiver, as I said, strictly a slot guy. You're not going to play him outside, but he's great to have around the building, especially with the younger receivers.
Here's the question I would have, because if he wants to come back to the Eagles, I'm sure there's a comfort level, and he likes the town, and he likes the coach staff, and he likes his teammates. Again, the A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are going nowhere fast. Quez Watkins is what Quez Watkins is, and the guy who's kind of become the forgotten guy in the Eagle wide receiver room is Zach Pascal. When he signed during the offseason, we knew he was
one of the coaching staff. They love him. But he's a blocker.
I was going to say, Johnny, just do me a quick favor. How many snaps has he played? They can
I gotta look
love
it up.
him all they want, but they
Well,
love
he's got
Greg
a role.
Ward too.
You know,
And then you look at who's actually getting out there onto the field, and I go, how much can you love a guy when you're only playing him? I guarantee his Pascal's less than 10% of the offensive snaps. I don't know what it is. Just off judging by my eye, he doesn't play 10% of the snaps. It's nice that they love you. They don't put you out there. The love is only so much.
I'm going to say he's way over 10%.
Really?
Yeah. I'm looking it up real quick. He's a blocker. I mean, the world needs role players. I got into this yesterday with the trade deadline. The world needs, and I'm joking, obviously, because everybody can't be a star. Somebody's got to do the dirty work. Zach Pascal's a dirty work guy. He's not, AJ Brown could do it physically, but he doesn't want to do that. I mean, he's a star. You got to be realistic about these things. And, when they run all those bubble screens, which I hate, but when they do run them and they do work, it's usually because Zach Pascal's getting a block, to be honest. So he is very good in that aspect of the game. 120 snaps.
Out of how many?
4. Jalen's played 444. He's never left the field. So
really? Okay. So he is out there for like a third of the snaps.
Yeah, about 25%. Yeah,
25.
A little bit more than 25. And let's see, Quez would be, because that's the toggle back and forth. And Quez plays more, but Quez is up at 251. So they play a lot of 11 personnel. But when they want the blocker on the field, that's when
who's got more snaps, Zach Pascal or Jack Stoll? You mentioned they prefer to be an 11 than 12, but they played plenty of 12 this year.
They played plenty of 12. And Jack's played more recently too. They've been going more in that direction. Jack's got more. Jack's at 178.
And how many?
Zach's at 120.
120. Okay. So yeah, he's played slightly more than him, and that's on me because you don't notice him because he's just doing the dirty work that you got to get done, which is blocking on specific plays. And Greg Ward is not going to be coming in and getting those snaps from him because that's not what Greg Ward does.
Here's it. Can I throw an interesting comp at you now that I'm looking at this, Jody? Zach Pascal, as I said, 120. Kenny Gainwell, 119. Yeah, he's been a disappointment.
But yet the Eagles are still one of the top running teams in the National Football League.
Oh, yeah.
That's because Miles having as good a year as he is, and Jalen gives you what he gives you, and you don't worry about the fact that some people had Kenny Gainwell breaking out this year, becoming the lead back of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Boy, that was silly. That was silly.
It probably was. It wasn't me, but there were some people who thought that Kenny Gainwell was going to have a breakout year. I'll give you a guy who might be kicking off a breakout year. You watched Monday Night Football last night?
Little bits. I mean, this is Pete Rozell's dream, man. I mean, this league is parity. Just, you don't know the difference between these two stinking teams. And, I criticize Chicago a lot, and I know you're a Justin Fields fan.
Yes.
I'll say this about Justin Fields. If he can weather this storm, and by this storm, I mean, he's in an organization that didn't help him, not only from a personnel standpoint, from a scheme standpoint. So when I say weather the storm, I mean sort of mentally get over this hurdle of lack of success and getting banged up and having no help, because that can affect quarterbacks. That can affect quarterbacks in a really negative way. He's got a lot of talent, man. He's got a lot of talent.
He's shown no signs of that. He has kept his mental game on the straight and narrow last year into this year, despite some of the shortcomings that you alluded to. Yeah, he's got talent. And I had previously watched him play a couple of games, and I was getting significantly concerned because I thought he was trying to guide the football. that he was thinking too much, and it is a system that doesn't fit his skills, and he just wasn't letting it rip off the shoulder. Oh, he let it rip a couple times last night. He's got a top 10 arm. And when it comes to arm strength, believe me that Justin Fields has that. And he reminded me a lot last night of Jalen Hurts. If it's there, throw it, gun it, let it go. If not, be ready to take off upfield. They had designated running plays for him last night. I think he took off about 10 times. I think he ran it.
Yeah, he ran it a lot. And, he's I'm going to get my first getting in trouble of the moment. He's got more physical gifts than Jalen does. Now, Jalen's a better quarterback.
He's got more arm strength than
he's more athletic too. I mean, he's incredibly athletic. He's incredibly athletic. I'm just talking physical traits. That doesn't make you a great player. Like I just talked about, Devin Allen. Devin Allen's an Olympic freaking hurdler. Doesn't mean he can play football. So before everybody gets up in arms, Jalen Hurts is a much better quarterback at this stage than Justin Fields. But Justin Fields has better physical gifts.
I can't believe I'm going to make an argument for Hurts over Fields. Does the ability to move the pile from the 1 yard line count as athleticism? Because surely I'll give Jalen Hurts the nod over Justin Fields in that comparison.
Well, Jalen's tremendous. Look, I said Jalen's a better quarterback, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. Can he deadlift 620 pounds, Justin Fields? My guess is no. I don't think there's ever been a quarterback that can deadlift 620 pounds.
Right.
So Jalen Hurts was a power lifter in high school and really into college, but he's very powerful. So he's stronger. I mean, he's stronger.
Here's what it comes down to, John. I guess you and I are looking at this differently. Strength that Hurts has, does that not connotate to athleticism for you? Is that separate? Is that?
Yeah, I would say it's separate. I mean, nobody looks at, that quarterback's really strong in the weight room. I mean, you look at Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, for instance, playing late into their careers. They don't even lift weights anymore. I mean, they do all this yoga stuff and all this, and flexibility, upper body flexibility. No, in other words, but when people are scouting quarterbacks, nobody's going, oh, this guy's, Matt Amendola at kicker. This guy, when you have it and when you see it in practice, I guarantee you the Eagles weren't saying, hey, we love Jalen Hurts because he can deadlift 620 pounds. They liked him as a quarterback, as a player, as things he could do. So with that particular position, no. Offensive line, yeah, you got to be powerful. Being powerful helps when you're an offensive lineman. And even that doesn't guarantee anything. But, the more you can just overwhelm people. But I would say, if you ask most scouts, that strength is very low on the list for quarterbacks.
Right. And you're describing it as an overall evaluative part of a whole look at a quarterback. I'm just talking about the use of the word athleticism. You said
I
think
wouldn't
Justin
put it in
Fields
there.
is more athletic than Jalen Hurts. And I'd say one of the things that kind of tips it towards Jalen Hurts is his ability to get behind an offensive line and move 4 guys that weigh over 350 pounds. That, to me, is athleticism. When you can just put your head down and drive the pile forward for a touchdown from the 1.5-yard mark, that counts for me as athleticism.
Yeah, well, that's your definition. I would, I would point, what are the things they do at the combine? 40-yard dash, 10-yard split, 20-yard split, broad jump. Quarterbacks aren't
weightlifting. Do they not do weightlifting at the combine?
Nobody looks at 225 for quarterbacks. Nobody.
Did they do it?
That's a good question. I don't even know. I'll look up Fields. he ran a 4.46, 159 10-yard, 2.6 20-yard, 9.11 broad jump. No number on 225. So my guess is no. And those are his pro day.
I'll tell you,
most top tier quarterbacks don't even work out at the combine.
Right.
Those numbers were from his pro day, but no, he didn't lift 225. Okay. Although, he's also 6'3", 230. He's probably pretty strong as well. I don't know that for a fact, but my guess is.
I think he's probably one of the stronger quarterbacks. He's just not Jalen Hurts, who might be the strongest quarterback. And just
he definitely is. Jalen definitely is. Nobody's stronger than Jalen Hurts playing quarterback. I feel very comfortable saying that. Very comfortable.
As do I. I would just personally, I'd rather know what kind of weight a quarterback could put up over what his leaping abilities are. I would want to know, can I use this guy for sneak?
Well, I would tell you that when it comes to Jalen Hurts, for instance, the deadlift is far more stinking important than the 225. Because if you're talking about, nobody cares about upper body, that's lower body. So, I mean, when you're trying to move the pile, and by the way, give Jason Kelce credit and the Eagles, I don't know if you saw that video. Kelce was mic'd up against the Cowboys and he goes up to snap the ball on one of the sneaks and he says, what's coming. And they just sneak it. And he told him, he Larry Bird them. He said, what's coming. And they converted. So give a lot of credit to Jason Kelce, the offensive line as well. And by the way, I was just ripping Kenny Gainwell. The Eagles have also, and give the credit for the coaching staff with this stupid rule that they have to change where you can push the player over. Kenny Gainwell's done a tremendous job with that. As soon as the Eagles do the quarterback sneak, Kenny Gainwell's there, pushing, the old Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush rule that they changed. So everybody's involved with that, but Jalen is tremendous at it. Tremendous.
He's got unbelievable drive in his legs, which is how many shows we've done in the past years. Well, who's going to be the Eagles' short yardage back? When are they bringing Jordan Howard back? The Eagles need a short yardage. No, they have a short yardage back. His name is Jalen Hurts. They don't need another short yardage back. All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. I can see in our green room that the big man, Easy Ed Kurtz, is getting ready to join us. He's up next here on Birds 365.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction. Go with trust.
Go Birds!
And go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Welcome to Pond Lehocky. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Score and save in southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown's 5-day used car super sale. Jeff puts an end to high prices now. 5 days of the best car, truck, and SUV deals ever. Over 1,000 vehicles, every make and model. Stop overpaying. See Jeff today and get a quality car, truck, or SUV now. The 5-day used car super sale. Experience how easy it is to deal at Jeff's. Nobody treats you better. Nobody gives you more. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown. GoJeffAuto.com.
Got your Mega Mac guys here on Birds 365. Jody McDonald, John McMullen, and our buddies, the Ed Kratz from Sports Illustrated, Eagle Maven, jumping in with us here on a Tuesday before the second half starts. All right, Ed, I want to follow up on the conversation I was having with John by asking you a question. If you were Howie Roseman and you took a call on July 1st this year, and Howie be making a whole bunch of calls this week with the NFL trade deadline now exactly 1 week away. But if you got a call on July 1st from the Bears general manager and they offered you Justin Fields straight up for Jalen Hurts. Now, I'm not talking about today. I'm not talking about last week of October. I'm talking about July 1st. So what has transpired between July 1st and this hasn't happened yet. If you were the general manager and they offered you Justin Fields for Jalen Hurts, would you not have pulled the trigger?
I don't think I would have. And listen,
Why?
hindsight. I'm not a big believer in Big Ten quarterbacks. I know. Listen, you're lumping.
Never scout the helmet, Joe.
But somehow you're a Sam Howell guy.
He's an ACC guy.
ACC.
He's a stiff, is what he is.
The Big Ten to me just doesn't produce quarterbacks.
Yeah, you know, Ed, that Brady guy sucks. I gotta give it to you, big guy. That Brady guy, how he's lasted in the league for 22 years is beyond my imagination as a Big Ten guy.
Give me another one.
I will
I don't have to go any further. When you got to go, you don't have to go to
20 years ago. That was 25 years ago. I mean, come on.
By the way, Justin Fields has, and the Eagles had a chance to draft Justin Fields, so they didn't want Justin Fields for whatever reason. They could have drafted.
I wasn't asking the Eagles. I'm asking Ed.
Well, you asked him about Howie Roseman. I will say this though: when you say Big Ten quarterback, first of all, first rule of scouting: never scout the helmet. Fields started at Georgia. So he's sort of Jalen Hurts. He went, Jalen went to Alabama, finished at Oklahoma. He started at Georgia, finished at Ohio State. So technically he's an SEC quarterback.
How many reps did he get at Georgia? How many snaps did he get? I mean,
not many, but he got the Georgia.
Play. And the Big Ten
got beat out by bad quarterback.
But wait, are you going to blame that on Justin Fields? You're going to blame that on the Georgia coach?
Yeah, they made the wrong decision.
It's so hard to look at this kid at Ohio State.
After Jalen Hurts got up and left. We saw him here last year against the Eagles. He can't freaking play.
Well, listen, look at this CJ Stroud kid at Ohio State now. How do you evaluate him? He's throwing the wide open guys. And Ohio State has had good receivers come into this league.
Yeah, they have great
receivers. It's so hard to evaluate the college quarterback because so many guys are so
I'll give you another, since you're not counting Jalen Hurts as an SEC guy, I'll give you another Big Ten guy, Joe Burrow.
Well, he's an SEC guy.
No, he's not.
Well,
you just said it's where you start, not where you. It's where you finish, not where you start.
But how many?
He was a Big Ten guy to start. He was at Ohio State. He couldn't beat out Justin
play at
Fields.
Ohio State. Listen. He was developed at LSU. He wasn't developed at Ohio State.
Yeah. By the way, that proves it is typical with quarterbacks because for some reason, Ohio State didn't see what Joe Burrow had. For some reason, Georgia didn't see what Justin Fields had, and they had to go elsewhere, which is, probably a college football problem more than anything else. But, Georgia clearly made the wrong decision, but they won a national championship. So did they make a wrong decision? I don't know. Did they make a wrong decision? Yeah. They took the worst player, but sometimes it's for your system. Systems matter. The Eagles, there's a lot of revisionist history with the Eagles in the quarterback position because Jalen Hurts has turned the corner seemingly. A lot of people like to forget the Eagles were trying to get better quarterback. Now they were trying to get a proven player, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, but they had a chance at Justin Fields, and for whatever reason, they didn't like Justin Fields as a player. But that's
he played in the Big Ten.
Which, by the way, what do we consider Russell Wilson?
He's North Carolina State, Wisconsin.
He's a Wisconsin guy for 1 year. He played there 1 year. I'll give him that, Okay. But and Kerry Collins, he's a Penn State guy. He had a pretty nice career in the NFL. But to me, they're outliers. You look at some of these guys that come in from the Big Ten, and they're just not the typical quarterbacks you like to see. So
it's always about the player, man. Never.
I know. I get it. It's like saying USC receivers can't play because we've seen those guys fall on their face too. Although we've seen some good ones come into the league since, some of the failures. But to me, I just think when you look at Justin Fields too, I think he would be better if he was in Philadelphia with a coaching staff as smart as the one that is in Philadelphia right now. I think he'd be better. Who's to say he's not as good as Jalen Hurts is right now, Justin Fields. But, listen, you already had Jalen Hurts. He had been in your system for this is his third year, came in 2020. So, he was a little further along. So maybe that's why they stayed with him rather than going with a Justin Fields.
That's a very legitimate answer because familiarity is key if you want to hit the ground running.
Plus, you have the work ethic and all. Like the Eagles know what Jalen Hurts is, and Nick Sirianni says all the time, I don't know what his ceiling is. How many times has he said this, Ed? But he's going to reach it because of his work ethic and the way he goes about his business. So when you're talking about, all right, if you're going to turn the page with another young quarterback, what are the odds another young quarterback approaches the game like Jalen Hurts? Probably not very good. And that's not an insult to Justin Fields. That's all of them. Probably not very good. So the Eagles were, all right, if we can get better with a veteran who knows how to do it as a professional, we'll go down that route. But, why go with another young quarterback and you got to go back to square one, no matter how talented they are.
But let me get your opinion on this. What colleges they played for aside, experience in the league and work ethic aside, who's got the better arm?
Fields or Hurts? I haven't seen enough of Fields to really make that judgment. I watched a little of that game Thursday night or Monday night, I guess it was
last night.
And he made some nice throws, but he also made some really bad throws. A short screen pass I saw that Jabril Peppers might have been able to intercept. He overthrew a guy down in the end zone. So, and I know Hurts makes those mistakes, and every quarterback's going to miss those throws. As far as strength goes of the arm, I haven't seen enough of Fields to really render a decision there. But I don't have a problem with Hurts's arm strength. I really don't.
Right. I think they're both top half of the league.
Yeah,
I think they're both. And there was a lot of people question before Jalen just had the 6 games that he's had. We're not going to win with Jalen. Just doesn't have the arm strength. I never understood that. Why people didn't see Jalen throw the ball last year and go, his arm strength isn't good. His arm strength
I don't even know. The Eagles have clapped back on that numerous times. Nick says you either you reach the level or you don't. He reaches the level. They never were concerned about his arm strength. Ed knows that from behind the scenes. Never were concerned. Now, if you line them up at the goal line and who throws the ball farthest, it's probably Fields, but who gives a flying? That's not how you play football. I mean, every once in a while, okay, Aaron Rodgers can throw the ball 70 yards in the air if you need a Hail Mary, and Trevor Lawrence can. You just saw it this weekend with the Hail Mary that I don't know, went 65 yards in the air, whatever the heck it was. Who cares? You don't do that in the normal aspect of the game. It's like, I don't understand why people get. There are a bunch of Tom Brady doesn't have a strong arm. Never had a top tier arm. I don't get why people are obsessed with that. If you reach the level, you reach the level.
But here's where I disagree with you a little bit, John. I don't think NFL people decide arm strength by who can throw it the furthest. I think a much better way to describe it: 20 yards moving out of the pocket on a line. Who can, while moving either right or left, and always a lot easier when you're going to your arm side, 20 yards on a line on the out of bounds marker. Who can throw it better? That's a better judge of arm strength of who can throw it 70 yards in the air. You're right. Who cares who can throw it 70 yards in the air? Who can throw it on a line, zip to it, and be able to hit a guy right at the sideline from 20 yards out while moving? That's the indicator of arm strength. And both of those guys, Jalen Hurts and Justin Fields, can do that. They're both, for me, top half of the league, no questions asked.
Yeah, I would even say some of those shorter throws, they're not short throws, but if a quarterback's in the pocket and he's throwing a pass across the field, on a 5-yard out, those are long throws. And you have to have a strong arm to get it there. So a cornerback's going to jump that route and, have a pick six in his pocket. So, I mean, that's a good judge of arm strength too. Is, are you able to make that long throw across the field? If you're rolling left and you slide left and you have to come all the way back across to the right side of the field, that's a long throw, and you have to have some zip to get it there too. It's not a punt, pass, and kick competition. Obviously, you're not looking to throw.
No, that's the thing.
Vick, 60 yards in the air, but you got to get it there on a line.
Accuracy, decision making, movement skills, arm strength. Those are the 4 things Nick Sirianni looks at, and the first 2 are a heck of a lot more important than the back 2, as he always says. So those are the things. You got to reach a certain level, obviously, to be an NFL quarterback. But Jalen Hurts reaches that level, has always reached that level. The Eagles have never had a concern with his arm strength. I do want to turn the page towards the trade deadline, Ed, because we all know. I wish people would stipulate that, and not only fans, but media people would stipulate how he's calling about everybody, period. If you're a good football player, he's going to call. So, he made that non-offer, as I called, for Christian McCaffrey, a 3rd-round pick. When they're getting 4 picks for him, that essentially says, we just want to keep an eye on what people are worth. He's called about Brian Burns. He's not giving up 2 first-round picks. But I do think he's going to do something. And, there's a 3rd safety. More explosive tight end if one is available to make that 12 personnel a little bit more devastating. Maybe another edge rusher, but a role player as an edge rusher. The big name trap. Everybody gets caught into it. Do you think the chemistry is real on this team? In other words, I'll phrase it this way. If you get Christian McCaffrey, if you get Brian Burns, isn't that going to affect you in a negative way, at least short term, from what you built up as the only unbeaten team in the NFL?
I think, listen, you go back to 2017, right, when he brought in Jay Ajayi, and people thought he was going to kind of, tip the apple cart a little bit there, because LeGarrette Blount was kind of your number 1 back. You had Corey Clement, getting, valuable snaps. Kenyon Barner, I think, was working his way in as a running back a little bit too. So people thought Blount would be upset when they brought in Ajayi, and he was very welcoming. I think this team can absorb anybody at this point. You could bring in whoever. And I think just the culture that they have set, that they're going to connect, right? They're going to be accountable. Jalen Hurts seems to always be out front of the welcome committee, right? He's always texting, the first one to text the new guy. So no, I don't think it would disrupt the chemistry at all if you brought in a Burns or a McCaffrey or, name your superstar. that they try to get, and they won't. I agree with you, but I think that, you know, whoever they bring in is going to be welcomed and is going to be, you know, embraced, and I don't think that would spoil the chemistry at all.
Yeah, I'm with Ed on this one. Just because the coaching staff and the quarterback, and yeah, he's offense, not defense, but they've got good leaders like Brandon Graham on the defense as well. That's why the one position that it might not be as good is if it's taking snaps away from Brandon. They've already done a great job of less is more with Brandon Graham. If they make it even less than that, Brandon might not be the happiest guy around. But no, I have faith in this coaching staff. The reason why I don't think the Eagles are going to make a big deal, John, is Howie Roseman and valuation. You like to bring this up all the time, and you're right about it. Howie is tremendous at valuation. Sometimes evaluation, not as good, but valuation, he's not going to pay the price.
No.
If the price was what McCaffrey cost, there was no way the Eagles are doing something like that. There's no way they're paying for the Burns kid from Carolina. That's not Howie Roseman's motif. Howie Roseman always seems to win the trade when it comes to valuation. And right now, I don't see him being able to pull off one where he's going to be able to rip somebody off.
I think if he wanted a running back, I mean, James Robinson just got traded
for Jody's Jets. Conditional 6th-round pick.
Yeah, a bag of footballs, really, when you think about it. I mean, it can become a 5th, but that's a great ad by the Jets. But if the Eagles really wanted to bring in a running back, I don't know why, you know, okay, McCaffrey's the stud, let's offer a 3. We know they're not going to take it, but you know, we're just testing the market here. But if you really wanted a running back, why wouldn't the Eagles have said, yeah, we'll give you a 5th? You know, no conditions attached, a 5th rounder for James Robinson, and bring him in. I don't think they want a running back. I mean, I know they did it in 2017.
I think they may want a running back, but a backup running back, not more of a role player, because I don't think that Kenny Gainwell's taken that step forward like they hoped. I don't think Boston Scott, I think they're very comfortable with, but I think they believe he's limited. And we don't know much about Trey Sermon at this point. You know, you were back in Cleveland during the summer, and you remember that sort of, I don't want to say it went viral, but Kareem Hunt was talking about requesting a trade. Nick Sirianni was pictured talking to him. They were, you know, glad-handing each other. What about Kareem Hunt for this team? That, to me, would make a lot of sense if and I don't even know if Cleveland wants to deal him. I don't know where it is, but that he's got some talent.
He does, but let me ask you a question, John. Sorry, Ed.
That's right.
Doesn't that just step directly on what you were just talking about? You don't want to screw with chemistry?
No, here's the difference.
If you go get Kareem Hunt, he's becoming your number one back, and Miles Sanders becomes a backup. That is something I actually do believe. That would be a big enough trade where it could potentially hurt the chemistry of the team.
Well, here's the difference between, and I should have explained this better when I asked Ed the question. When he's right, and you know, he hasn't been right for basically 2.5 years, but when he's healthy, you could make a strong argument that Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in football. He ran for 1,400 yards. He had 1,000 yards receiving in 2019. 1,000 yards receiving as a running back. He is a player that demands the football. In other words, you're making it very difficult for Shane Steichen. You have this great offense, and then all of a sudden, Christian McCaffrey's coming off the street. And if he's on the field, you have to get him involved. In the case of Kareem Hunt, he's a very good player. And this is why I don't like the Ajayi comparisons to Christian. They're two completely different worlds of player. It would be the same thing as Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount. All right, who's better at that point? Maybe it's Miles. Maybe it's Kareem Hunt. McCaffrey's a different level of player. Brian Burns is a different level of player. If you acquire that kind of talent, you have to get them involved. You have to. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. To me, Hunt comes in, good player. If Miles plays better, you play Miles. If Kareem gets hot, you play Kareem. So that's the difference to me. But Ed, your thoughts?
Well, I think you have to be careful bringing in Kareem Hunt. He's a guy that needs a contract just like Miles Sanders needs a contract at the end of the year. You're bringing in another big decision, especially if you have to give up a third-round pick maybe to get Kareem Hunt, maybe
I don't know.
maybe
You
more.
know, conditional 4 maybe that goes to a 3 if he does well.
I mean, they brought Golden Tate in 2018 for a 4th rounder, so maybe
Which
if they
didn't
get,
work.
but no, it didn't. But again, well, he did make that big
He
4th
did,
catch in
big play in
Chicago.
the playoffs. Yeah,
Mhm.
ran the wrong route, but got the touchdown.
Yeah, but I just think Hunt brings in another problem in the decision-making process. Now you have to decide on 2 running backs, which one you're going to extend. Now that could go both ways. Players, Sanders or Hunt, could kind of sulk if they don't feel like they're being given an opportunity to, earn that next contract, or it could be a great motivator for both of them to say, hey, I'm the best, and whatever opportunities I get, I'm going to make the most of so I can get that contract extension. I don't think Howie's going to do that. I don't think he's going to bring in another headache in the postseason or in the off season to figure out what to do with. I mean, I just don't see him bringing in a Kareem Hunt. I think the Eagles really like what they have at running back. They look at Trey Sermon as another 3rd-round pick. I mean, he was a 3rd-round pick of the 49ers. So they view him as, hey, we got a 3rd-round pick basically for nothing. And I think they really like Trey Sermon. And, Kenny Gainwell, again, 2nd year, I don't think they're going to give up on him. Are they getting enough from him at this point? No. Maybe, hopefully, when he comes out of the bye, something clicks for him. We'll see. But right now, Miles Sanders is the guy. And, the Eagles like that. And I just don't think they'll bring in another I really don't think they'll add another running back. Now, listen, when you get down to it and the deadline gets closer, we're a week away now, but as you creep down into the last 48 hours or 24 hours, and you're not getting any offers for what you really would like to have on defense, and you say, I need to do something, then maybe that kind of, desperation spurs a move that maybe is like your 2nd-tier move, like a Kareem Hunt. But I just don't think they'll bring in another player like Kareem Hunt or Brian Burns. Carolina's not trading him. I think it'll be kind of a role player, a veteran rental, maybe like a Jerry Hughes, like Jody mentioned last week. I'd love
Robert Quinn, maybe
Robert Quinn possibly. Maybe Chubb from Cleveland. Maybe Bradley Chubb.
Chubb would be more expensive.
Probably, but he's not having a great year. And maybe the kid Farrell, who really hasn't done anything. Cleveland Farrell.
Get Mike Mayock involved. He'll talk him up.
Maybe he's a rental. Maybe you trade Andre Dillard for him. I straight up. I don't know. But I think that's kind of the player we're looking at, is someone that can come in and just fill a role. You don't have to bring in someone that's going to tip the apple cart in the backfield there with, contracts looming at the end of the season.
Let me get both of you guys' takes on a player who you just threw out there, Ed, Quinn from Chicago. Watched the game last night. I think he played. I think I recognized the number. I didn't see him make any plays. He's got 1 sack in 6 games. I know you go back and look at the last couple of years. He's been one of the better sack guys in the NFL. He's top 10. This year he's got 1 sack in 6 games. And Johnny Mac's favorite, I think he's got like 3 hurries. He might not be motivated to be there. He's a 10-year guy. He's 32 years old. I think the guy's got nothing left in the tank. If you're trading for Robert Quinn, you're trading for his name more than his production.
Big name trap.
His career.
Big name trap. Yeah.
Don't go there, Howie. Don't go there.
And he's got a huge contract too. So it's almost like, the compensation, they might have to factor in the money too. The Bears might have to pick up some of that tab because that's a big contract. And I think he's signed for another 2 years after this.
2 more after this? I thought it was only 1. You might be right.
Maybe it is. I think it is 2024 or 2023. Yeah, I think it is just 1.
By the way, with Robert Quinn, he had 18 and a half sacks last year. Last year.
How many's he got through 6 games, John?
He's got 1. So to me, it's more of he probably doesn't want to be there. I don't know how you fall off a table that large that quickly to be that good and all of a sudden turn into somebody who's a non-entity. But you're right. I mean, my issue with edge rusher, and I want a third safety. I want a special teams player. I want a backup tight end. I don't want an edge rusher. I don't want to mess with what's going on at edge. Who are you going to sit? I know Eagles fans, for whatever reason, still don't believe in Brandon Graham, but he is playing at an incredibly high level, albeit on a pitch count. Josh Sweat is a really good player. I think he's maybe the most underrated player on this team. And Hassan Reddick has been, as advertised, one of the top 10 pass rushers in this league. Who are you taking snaps away from?
Right.
I don't like that. I don't like that thought process of the grass is always greener. What's here is really good. Look at safety. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson had to miss 16 plays. It was a disaster because they had to go to Kayvon Wallace. That, to me, should be the focus.
Yeah. I mean, listen, what about Jabril Peppers? I mean, he doesn't play a whole lot in New England. I mean, I think I looked that up because I think safety is certainly – I think safety and D-line. You could even say defensive tackle. If there's a defensive tackle out there, because
they got 100 defensive tackles, Ed. They're
I
playing.
don't think they're getting enough from Marlon T. and Milton Williams. I think Milton Williams we talk about Kenny Gainwell not developing. I'm not sure Milton Williams is taking that
Jody's with you there.
Yeah,
I think he's been banged up with that knee injury. I think that's affected Milton, but he's playing through it. I think coaches like that.
But Jabril Peppers, to me, is a guy that you might want to target, right, from the Patriots. He plays 30%.
They don't like box safeties, though. They
How about Chuck Clark? The Ravens are still in the hunt
here.
He's playing 100% of the snaps, but sooner or later they're going to have to turn the page and go to Kyle Hamilton, right?
Have you seen the Ravens secondary this year? Oh my God, they're the worst in the National Football League. I thought it was going to be a strength. They give up more passing yards than anybody in the entire NFL. I don't break down game film on them, Ed, but it's got to be a reason for it. The Chuck Clarks of the world might not be playing as well as we thought they were going to play this year.
All right, I'm going to throw a knuckleball at you. Not really a knuckleball, but I give credit to Jimmy Kempski, our buddy, because he brought it up. Rodney McLeod. Why not bring Rodney back to be the third safety? Indianapolis would probably trade him. He's an older player. He knows how to play, knows the system as the third safety. What about the Eagles love to reunite? They just reunited with Greg Ward. They always bring people back. Why not Rodney McLeod?
Well, I would say Anthony Harris. He's not going to cost you anything. Go bring Anthony Harris.
Is he on the street right now?
He's in the practice squad.
I think he's Denver's practice
squad. You could bring him in for nothing and, cut Kayvon Wallace or whoever.
They should have kept Anthony Harris. You're right.
They probably should have. So why give up something for McLeod? I know he did a lot here and this and that, but I mean, Harris is a very good leader. I know his game's probably average at best. But he'd be a good third safety, play, 20% of the snaps, whatever role you carve out for him.
That's a good point as well. They should have kept Anthony.
I would go Anthony Harris. I would sign him off the practice squad of the Broncos and, figure out where to put him on the 53. I mean, if that's the way you want to go, don't trade for somebody. Bring in Anthony Harris. He's fine. He knows the system. He's a good leader, liked in the clubhouse.
All right, Eddie, the Eagles get back at it this week against Pittsburgh. I continue to be a big Mike Tomlin fan. I thought he made a mistake last week. I thought he should have stuck with Trubisky after he won the game for him the week before. Pickett comes in, throwing INTs all over the place. Oh, by the way, that's a bad mix for the Steelers. The Eagles are the number one takeaway team in the NFL, and Kenny Pickett is throwing interceptions left and right. That's not a good mixture if you're going to be wearing black and silver this week, black and gold. Any chance the Steelers coming in? They haven't won a game here since I think it was 65 is the last time. Wow. Franklin Field is the last time the Steelers won a game in Pittsburgh. Give me a percentage chance, 0 to 100, that the Steelers come in here and end the Eagles' undefeated season.
Percentage chance, I would say it's probably 10% they can do it.
Let's say less than 10. You went right to 10. Good job out of you, Kratz.
I did a story on the 1972 Dolphins. They talked, the 4 of the 7 surviving members of that 1972 team that are in the Hall of Fame. And Larry Zonka brought up a great point. He said it's probably going to be a team that beats them that nobody expects because there's so much parity in the league. And, that's a good point. I mean, there could be a team like the Steelers or maybe the Texans 4 days later, although I doubt it, that can trip up the Eagles. They're coming out of the bye 6-0, probably been told the last 10 days how great they are and, this and that. So I give them a 10% chance for sure.
10%. a last one for me, Ed, at Kratzy on Twitter, reademsi.com/NFL/Eagles. Nick Sirianni hates looking ahead. It's all about today. It's all about getting better today. 1% better, Ed Kratz. So get 1% better. But I look at Kenny Pickett coming in, and then it's Davis Mills, then it's Taylor Heineke. Now it's Sam Ehlinger in Indianapolis. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to make a run at the Dolphins, but they're going to make a run at double-digit undefeated. And if they don't, it would be a massive disappointment. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, they're not going to go 17-0. I don't think. I mean, you have the Giants, the Cowboys, but they can win. They should win these next few games. But again, I go back to what Zonka said on a call leading up to Sunday night's honoring them at the Dolphins-Steelers game, that there could be a team that, catches them off guard, or the Eagles could certainly beat themselves. I know they haven't done that. They haven't been a very highly penalized team. They haven't turned the ball over, but every now and then those kind of games creep up. So I wouldn't call it a disaster if they were to lose to one of these teams. It may help refocus them. That's sometimes what losses.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, but I just don't think it'll be the Steelers. I mean, listen, the Steelers had a chance to draft Jalen Hurts in 2020. I thought they were going to draft Jalen Hurts because Ben Roethlisberger was 38 years old, coming off an injury where he played 2 games. They needed a quarterback, and they took Chase Claypool, number 49, which shocked the heck out of me. And now they probably are trying to trade Chase Claypool. I've heard reports out of Pittsburgh that Claypool is on the trade block. So bad. You look at an organization like Pittsburgh, very smart, savvy.
I got to be honest with you. I don't think anybody was looking at drafting Jalen Hurts in the second round except the Eagles. So you got to give him credit.
He was the curiosity. To me, he was the curiosity in the draft that year, was where is Jalen Hurts going to go? This mix of a runner, passer, who's going to take him? And I thought the Steelers that wasn't a really good class. It was a top-heavy class. Hurts came off the board, and then the next guy didn't get taken until the Colts took JAKIB Eason like 100 and something picks later. But to me, they needed to make a move at quarterback, and Hurts was the best guy on the board, and I was shocked when they didn't take him.
All right, do me a favor, Ed. When Bradbury gets his 3rd interception of the year and only returns it 5 yards, please turn to Bob Gross and go, yeah, you're right, he's slow. Man, he should have gotten 10 yards on that return. How he only got 5, I don't know. Please, please, please give Groats a hard time if Bradbury makes a big play on Sunday.
We do. We give Groats a hard time every time Bradbury's in the TV frame.
Somebody pretty high profile, put Bradbury in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation, which I think is
absurd.
I think it's a little bit much, but he's playing. He's playing at that level. I think part of it is, he's not even the best corner on this team, so I'm not going to put Defensive Player of the Year conversation in it. But he's been tremendous, and all the Eagles additions. I did my bye-week awards for SI. AJ Brown, Offensive Player of the Year, Offensive MVP, and I know Jalen Hurts is second in the real MVP odds, but AJ Brown to me has been the biggest impact. Hassan Reddick has been the biggest impact defensively because of his pass rush. Yep. Bradbury's been tremendous. Kaiser White to a lesser degree. How he's rolling all 7s. Maybe he can roll another one.
Don't forget the Gardner's getting the job done too.
Yeah.
You just said when he went out for a couple of plays, it was like, we're in trouble. The safety position is falling apart with Kayvon in there. How he has pushed all the right buttons.
Just when he did that in 2017 too, right? That was the Midas touch in 2017. Everything he touched turned to gold, and we're seeing that this year. So we'll see what golden piece he brings in this week.
We will certainly have Ed Kratz back on to talk about it next week. Thank you, Ed. Feel free to pimp McMullen and or Groats and or Martin Frank, whoever you need to. Just feel free to lambaste everybody in the press box this week.
That's what I'm here for, baby. I'm here to irritate.
Ed Kratz, non-irritation for us here on Birds 365. All right, Mac and Mac coming back. We'll get Clark Judge up here in hour number 2. great national writer, Hall of Fame voter, been around and covering the league for decades. We've had Clark on the show before. I haven't had him for months. I just realized because when I book him, I look at when the last text was. Ooh, it's been months since we had Clark Judge on. So I'm looking forward to talking to him with John McMullen. It's the Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
The faces you know, the team you trust. The Delaware Valley's leading news program, Action News.
Go for the beers, go for the cheers, go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene, go for the screens, go for the gallery, go for the win. Go to Ocean.
Johnny Mac and Jody Mac here with you on Birds 365. Yes, the Eagles are back in action on Sunday after the bye week, which thank you, Phillies, for keeping us all entertained during a down week in the Eagles schedule. They'll be back in action. Sunday's going to be a tough day. But the World Series doesn't start till 8:03 at night. So the Eagles, good thing they're playing.
Man, those games are late. Ugh, I forgot. Yeah.
8:03 start time Eastern, which they could have. And again, it all comes down to scheduling in advance. They set the dates for the World Series. They probably set the time for the World Series as well. There's no West Coast team. If there's a West Coast team, then you actually do have to do some balancing. There's not. It's an Eastern team and a Central time zone team. They could start this game at anywhere between 7 and 7:30 and just make it a little bit more doable on a Sunday night or whenever they're going to have the game during the week when the kids are in school. It is a little bit unfortunate. But the Eagles play Sunday at 1. John McMullen's favorite time to cover the National Football League.
Yes.
The Steelers coming to town. And, yeah, I didn't think the Steelers were going to be very good this year, but they've been really bad. Even Sunday night, and, you know, I'm a Tua guy, and Tua made a couple of nice passes, but Tua made some bad throws. there was rust on Tua. He did not play exceptionally well.
Well, yeah. I mean, he hasn't played for a while. And by the way, still hasn't been. Oh, now that you brought up Tua, because still hasn't been diagnosed with that second concussion, no matter how many people say it. I brought up Amon-Ra St. Brown getting tossed from the game because of the new rule, and he showed motor instability. No concussion. Hurt his foot, hurt his ankle, little instability for a second. Completely fine. It's not the official's fault. He saw instability. He sent him off the field. Out. Can't come back in the game. Dumb rule. Overreaction. Unintended consequence. Nobody cares. I get it. But if that happens in a big game, Jody, with a big player, wait till you see what's coming.
Since we're talking theoretical or hypothetical, let it be A.J. Brown here in an Eagle game when they're still undefeated, and he gets up a little unstable midway through the first quarter, and then he's sitting for 3.5 more quarters because he took a bad step after making a catch or having a pass defended against him. Oh, yeah, we're Birds 365. Yes, we talked a lot about Justin Fields in hour number one. We like to think we can talk about the entire National Football League, but this is Eagle country, and this is where people are worried. The people that are listening right now are Eagle fans. It better not happen to the Eagles because they will scream bloody murder. Your point is dead on that it's an accident waiting to happen. It's not big a deal because good wide receiver on a bad team in a game that people weren't paying that much attention to. All right, well, maybe it's a Cowboys. So some people are paying attention to it. But if it's a big game and an Eagle game specifically here in town, it's got a chance to really catch the attention of the fan.
You can't develop policy based on social media reaction. I wish I could shake somebody in the NFL office, use some common sense. These are independent neurologists. I mean, if somebody's got information that says that some independent neurologist from North Carolina, wherever the heck he was from, is trying to skew things Miami's way and wants 2 on the field because he's bet on the game, that's the biggest scandal in the history of mankind. To my knowledge, that has not happened. He was never diagnosed with a concussion. The independent neurologist did nothing wrong, and they changed the policy anyway because of what happened in the future, which nobody can judge. And it was a very scary scene, but it had nothing to do with the first scene. People can't connect that. And certainly experts can't connect that. So you're down this wormhole, and it's going to be, Jody, it is going to be a disaster at some point when it happens in a big game. Obviously, if it happens in Philadelphia, it'll affect us greater. But if it happens in the playoffs anywhere, and that similar thing happens where, think about a quarterback. If he's taken off the field, you go back to the playoff game against Seattle, and Carson Wentz was concussed, legitimately concussed, called it one of the scariest moments of his life, and fans were upset that he took himself out of the game, If you have a non-diagnosed concussion and a quarterback leaves a game, oh boy, because you're telling the officials, and again, it wasn't the official's fault. He stumbled. He stumbled because he hurt his ankle or his foot or whatever. And he just saw the stumble. And he said, all right, instability, get him off the field. And it's done. It's over.
Here's the one place your argument and the way you laid it out was perfect. Here's where I'll give the NFL a little more credit than I think you do. I really don't think they make these moves or have these reactions because of social media. I think it's a little bit more mainstream media. And if you want me to name names, I'll give you Peter King. I'll give you Shannon Sharp on Fox. I'll give you Michael Irvin on ESPN. I think they are very well aware what's being said about their game and how they're how they're refereeing it from guys who they deem as respectable, move the needle with the NFL fan base type guys. I don't think because Dominic Dabney, and I'm just reading the name off our stream here, said the NFL is a joke. How can
fair
it
enough?
risk the
Fair enough.
concussion?
You're right, but I should. You're right, of course. I don't mean at goofball 976 on Twitter, but I think they have a great effect. I know you're right about Peter King and his reputation. I don't know what word you want to use. If you want to use progressive, if you want to use liberal, if you want to use whatever word you feel more comfortable with, that's Peter. Good or bad, that's Peter. And I do think, people in my industry are affected a lot by social media. So maybe it's a step away. Maybe you're right. But the NFL has to realize this. Look, this is a very dangerous sport. Everybody knows it. Everybody signs off to play it. I've said this from this because it's a very difficult subject and it's a very new science and there's still not a lot of information and people won't admit that. And instead of tackling that head on and trying to educate people, the NFL is just trying to shield, as they usually do, shield used facetiously a little bit, and just try to hide and take the easiest route. It's difficult to educate people. It's very, very difficult. But if an independent neurologist, you're going through all these hoops and you've done all this, and he says, look, there's no concussion here by the available evidence, you got to stand by that guy. And the NFLPA as well, by the way, because they're part of this, a big part of this.
Not only did they not buy what he was saying, they turned around and fired his rear end.
Yeah, exactly. Because why? Because it's easier. It's easier. Education is harder. So you're right. I probably didn't phrase it correctly, but I do think social media has a huge impact on people in my industry, in your industry. Some more than others, to be honest, but it has this wave that can turn people in certain directions, and then it becomes a unintended consequence, which is what we have here, and we've already seen it. It's 2 weeks old. We've already seen it. We've already seen the impact of not allowing the experts to do their jobs, because you can send Amon St. Brown off the field, no issue. Send him off the field, then let the doctors do their work, and they could say, no, he hurt his ankle, he hurt his foot. We did the impact testing. There's no concussion. Clear him, get him back on the field. You can no longer do that,
right?
And that was common sense. So common sense does not win the day.
There's got to be a middle ground position here that the NFL hasn't figured out just yet. And shame on them. I'm with you. Overreaction, lose a guy for an entire game, absolutely can almost dictate the outcome of the game depending on the magnitude of the player. But they don't want to face the wrath of, I would say, media over social media if they have another Tua type situation. They're managing their game scared, which I don't think you can do in the National Football League, and you shouldn't be doing in a physical game. Everybody knows ahead of time it's a physical game, and guys are going to take shots. If not, then go play flag football. But if you still have tackling and wear helmets, stuff's going to happen, and you got to be able to deal with it and roll with it. All right, before we get Clark Judge up here, with the Steelers coming to town, they will not go into tank mode for one very specific reason. They never do.
No.
We've seen Carolina trade off their best player. Would not be surprised if other teams follow suit this week and just say, we're not making the playoffs this year. We're going to get draft assets and the like. You don't think Pittsburgh's going to go down that road if the Eagles clean their clock come Sunday. You don't think on Monday the Steelers will be moving off any of their players, do you? You mentioned Claypool earlier. Do you really think there's anything to that?
Yeah, I do, but I think that's more of kind of been a horse's what at times than, very talented player. And I don't, Ed brought up they should have drafted Jalen Hurts. I mean, I don't think they're disappointed in Chase Claypool's talent. I think they're disappointed in maybe some of the other things. But so you can always trade guys from that standpoint. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing season, doesn't want to have a losing season. No, I can't see them going fire sale, even if they get blitzed by the Eagles. What they are going to do, evidently, is allow Kenny Pickett to go through the growing pains. And maybe that helps down the road, if they evaluate it correctly. A little surprised they're going to him this early. Everybody's still in it because there's so few good teams. If you're not in the NFC East or the AFC
That's
East,
true in that division.
Yeah, you're still in it. Everybody in the entire league except for two divisions. So no, I don't think there's going to be any kind of fire sale. I don't even know why there's a fire sale in Carolina because they're in it. PJ Walker's giving them some life. Our old Temple friend, tongue in cheek a little bit. They're not going to win anything, but they were trying, and even there, they're not trying to trade Brian Burns. If you want to give them 2 first-round picks and give them the King's ransom, they might consider it because they know they're not ready to win. But in the case of McCaffrey, he's an injury-prone player who makes a lot of money, and they're that makes sense. Robbie Anderson, Robbie's one of those guys that people fall in love with because he can run, but he's just not that good of a receiver. The Jeremy Chins of the world, who I think is still on IR, the Brian Burns of the world, you still got to build with certain players. I mean, even teams that are not ready, they still got to build.
Did I ever tell you my PJ Walker story per my daughter?
I do. I don't believe so.
She's a communications major at Temple, and she's in the same class as the Temple quarterback. And they got broken off into groups to do a group project. So I think it was 5 in a group. They had 20 people in the class. So 4 groups of 5 people apiece. And Maddie gets assigned to be in Walker's group. But someone else was the group leader. So she was giving out the responsibility. She gave Maddie hers and the next person, and then gave out the responsibilities to Philip. And no one knew who Philip was. But the girl who knows nothing about football, who's running the group, is just going down a list of names here.
Philip.
And Philip, we need you to do this. And everyone's like, look, who's Philip? Who the hell is Philip? Oh, you're talking about PJ, the quarterback. The girl who leading the group had no idea who PJ Walker was. He was just Philip on a sheet of paper. And when my daughter told me that story years ago, I laughed out loud. So, yes, I will be rooting for Philip Walker, the newest quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, just because he's a Temple guy. And he won last week. He got the better of a guy we know full well.
How about that? The fact that he can always, PJ is going to be telling that story to his grandchildren one day. You can guarantee that. That's a pretty big win for a young quarterback.
Ed Kratz forgot that Brady guy was a Big Ten quarterback.
Well, he lost his job, which tells you about college football. He lost his job at Michigan to Brian Greasy at one point. So,
here's what makes. I think you were with me on this, but you don't want to chop your guy Ed off at the knees. Where they played college football is irrelevant. Joe Burrow couldn't make it in the Big Ten, but he goes to the SEC and wins a Heisman.
Josh Allen played at Stick in Wyoming.
Which can't get or develop quarterbacks, couldn't develop Joe Burrow, but he goes to the SEC and has one of the greatest collegiate years ever in the history of the National Football League.
Again,
where a guy played, what conference he was
never,
in.
and that's what literally day one of scouting school. Never scout the helmet. Trust me, Wyoming doesn't have a history of great quarterbacks, and then Josh Allen comes along.
Yeah. Give me
know,
the previous Wyoming standout quarterback in the NFL. Oh, shoot, can't draft Josh Allen because there's never been a Wyoming quarterback before.
Carson Wentz at North Dakota State, becoming the now people saying that.
John, how many times did I have to field calls on? Oh, Joe Burrow's at LSU, and LSU has not developed a quarterback. Are you kidding me? Yeah, you're gonna pass on that guy.
Yeah.
400 and how many yards this week? 481 for Burrow. But there were people that
all those
LSU's never developed. Oh God, why can't I think of the kid who went number one? The LSU big kid.
Jamarcus Russell.
Jamarcus Russell. What a bust he was. Therefore, you can't take Joe Burrow because Jamarcus Russell was Jamarcus Russell. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my entire life.
No, I'm with you. And I even with like I say it all the time, even with David Carr and Derek Carr. David Carr hurt Derek Carr. It's dumb. It's very dumb.
Right. You got to evaluate the individual. All right. We will evaluate Clark Judge from Talk of Fame Network is scheduled to join us next. We've had Clark on the show a couple times. Always good whenever he hops aboard. We're looking to punch him up next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown's 5-day used car super sale. Jeff puts an end to high prices now. 5 days of the best car, truck, and SUV deals ever. Over 1,000 vehicles, every make and model. Stop overpaying. See Jeff today and get a quality car, truck, or SUV now. The 5-day used car super sale. Experience how easy it is to deal at Jeff's. Nobody treats you better. Nobody gives you more. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown. GoJeffAuto.com.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an Audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer 3 major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Over the last 17 years, we've built a reputation of growing award-winning teams across the country. Staffing is not easy, but that's what we do every day, all day. The key to our success is storytelling, asking the right questions to find the right people. Hi, I'm Gary Kane, president of Kane Partners. We want to be your staffing partner.
got your Mac and Mac guys, McMullen and McDonald here with you on Birds 365, and we have an esteemed guest to join the program. One of the best NFL writers over the last couple of decades, doing it these days for Talk of Fame Network, Mr. Clark Judge. Here's where I want to start today, Clark, because I know you, like John and myself, maybe you and me more than John, but he's no spring chicken either. Did the Dolphins throw down the challenge gauntlet by doing the undefeated celebration thing on Sunday Night Football? Because the Eagles are going to be favored. Their last 11 games, they're probably going to be favored every single game at 6-0. Has the challenge been put forth by the Dolphins for the Eagles to be able to go 17-0?
Well, yes and no. I mean, they do it every year. And so I don't know that it was done for the Eagles' benefit. But I agree with you. They are going to be favored in virtually, I think, every game down the stretch. And you don't see them face a team with a winning record until December 4th, right? And that's Tennessee.
Yeah,
you think they're better than Tennessee? They are better than Tennessee. But, Jody, you know what happens. This is a long, grueling season. Who knows what happens with injuries? The Lane Johnson concussion concerns me some. At some point, someone will catch him. But no, I don't think that was done for the Eagles' benefit. I think it was done more for the Dolphins fans.
Yeah, they do it. Yeah, they do it every year. But, my interesting thing, obviously we're Philadelphia-centric here, Clark. So, one of the knocks on the Eagles is, well, who have they beaten? Well, you can't beat anybody because there's three good teams. There's the Eagles in the NFC, there's the Bills, and there's Kansas City in the AFC. This is Pete Rozell's dream, man. This is parody. I look at, why is Carolina fire sale? Everybody is a game out of first place except in the NFC East and the AFC East, where you have the good teams that bubble to the top. It's amazing.
I'm glad you brought that up, John, because my question is, I think you're absolutely right. Rozelle wanted parity. Is it parity or is it mediocrity? And I'd say it's a little bit of both. And I think there's a lot of mediocrity. When Tom Brady said earlier this year, I see a lot of bad football out there. Well, he should. He's playing some of it. I mean, it's everywhere. You look at Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay; they're not playing well. You look at what happened last night with New England and Chicago. I mean, Chicago's not a very good team. Well, New England was a very good team last night either. So my question has always been, okay, we talk about Philadelphia, the NFC. Who's the second best team out there? And I got to believe at this point, it's probably Dallas.
Yeah.
Well, the Eagles have already beaten Dallas. Is it that the Giants? And as much as I want to buy into the Giants, and they're playing well, but they've had to come from behind in every game. I have a tough time just because I'm not a Daniel Jones fan. He's playing much better this year. But even the Giants weren't sold on. They didn't pick up that fifth-year option. But Saquon Barkley is playing out of his mind, and they're so revolved around or invested in him. They're playing well. But I look at the Eagles, and they've got everything covered, every place around the board. You go offense, defense, special teams, and they seem to have all their bases covered. And the second-best team, I think, I always thought before last weekend, it's going to be San Francisco. Not because of the McCaffrey deal, because of their defense. And then you look at that defense last weekend, got shredded by Kansas City.
Yeah, Mahomes took them apart. Let me ask you about the team with the second best record in the NFC right now, and that would be the Big Blue Giants.
Yep.
I thought they painted themselves into a corner. I know it wasn't the current administration that did so, and they had to let James Bradbury walk, who I was pumping up for the Eagles to sign while he was still a Giant, just because you knew it was coming, that they were going to have to do it just to get cap room to be able to sign their draft picks. So I thought that was a major loss. I've always loved Martinez, the middle linebacker, one of the tackling machines in the National Football League. They decided to move away from him. I'm going, man, this Giant Thibodeau better be the best player on the planet. Otherwise, this Giant defense is not going to be any good. Oh, yeah, they are. Week in, week out, they get stops when they need to be able to give the offense a chance to come from behind. Is that all just Wink Martindale?
No, it's more than that. But before I get there, I didn't realize that I thought I was going to vote for Howie Roseman as Executive of the Year. But, Jody, I didn't realize I should vote for you because you were the guy that recommended that they pick up Bradford as at the corner.
John will tell you, while he was still on the Giants, I was going CB2 for the Eagles behind Darius Slay. I'm telling you, James Bradbury's going to be released.
You got my write-in vote. No, it's not all Wink Martindale, but it is a new coaching staff. And Brian Daboll has really changed things there. And I don't like this this cliched phrase, but changing the culture. But I think it's appropriate here, and it was appropriate from the very first game. If you watch their game down in Tennessee, they were in it, and they were in it at the end. And I thought they'll find a way to lose because that's who they are. Daniel Jones had turned the ball over. That's who they are. But Saquon Barkley had a breakout game then, and that you figured, okay, well, he'll get hurt. And no, he didn't. And then they score to come within 1 point. They're going to kick the extra point, and they're going to go to overtime. And he goes, no, we're not. We're going for 2. And I immediately said to my wife, who's a lifelong Giants fan, I don't care whether they get it or not. This is a great decision because he's telling the players right from the get-go, I believe in you guys. I saw it with Sean Payton in 2006 with New Orleans. He did that a lot. And I thought the players really picked up on this guy believes it. He's behind us 100%. And if you've got the players, it works. And right now it's working because I think those guys say, listen, we're not as bad as we were a year ago. We may not be as good as 6-1, but we're there. I mean, we're coming from behind, we're winning, and it's become a cohesive unit. But I go straight to the head coach, who obviously picks his own staff. Yeah, Wink Martindale's made some changes there, but there you watch them now, and it's a little bit of both because the defense is getting more time on the bench simply because the offense is better because of Saquon Barkley. They're running the ball effectively. They're getting first downs when they need to. They're moving the chains. They're doing everything needed to sort of give those guys on the other side of the line of scrimmage a break. They're a good team. They're not a great team. I don't know if there are any great teams out there. Buffalo's probably pretty close, but again, we'll see what happens down the stretch. I mean, they lose Josh Allen, boom, it's gone. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. But I think they're a fun team to watch, whereas in the past, they weren't just bad, they were boring, and that's a bad combination.
Yeah, that is a bad combination. One thing I like about Brian Dable as well, Clark, and I don't know if you saw this, I'll give credit to Dan Orlovsky and Mike Kapka as well, our old friend.
Former Eagles,
they ran the same play 8 straight times against the Jaguars. Just a lead, pulling the guard, lead power football, running the football. 8 straight times. Jimmy Johnson kind of tint. Just, hey, stop it. And if you stop it, I'll do something else. But until you stop it, I'm not going to do something else. I love that. Some people might call it simple, but I think it makes sense. There's common sense. And to your culture point, saw that here with Doug Peterson. He was at the forefront of the 4th down, and the Eagles bought in, man.
Right.
And you talk about that Super Bowl, the biggest play that people forget about, 4th and 1, minus 50. So they're on their side of the field, but they kind of knew that this was a shootout. And if they gave up the football, they were in trouble. They got the conversion to Zach Ertz. And I remember talking to Frank after that game, Clark, Frank Bright. And he said, Doug is a freaking superstar. Frank doesn't curse, so he used the term frickin', I think he used. But Doug is a superstar. See the same thing with Nick Sirianni. I don't like that term culture as well, but it's real. I think it's real in a sense of guys buy in with certain coaches.
Right. No, you're right, John. And I saw it in the Giants locker room when Coughlin was there because there was sort of a rebellion against him when he first got there. If you got to a 2:00 meeting at 2:00, you were fined. And they're saying, what are you talking about getting fined? I mean, I'm there on time. No, you get here 5 to 10 minutes early. You're on Tom Coughlin time. And so there was sort of a rebellion. It wasn't working. And if you remember, they came to the last game of the 2006 season. And in New York, Coughlin's job was on the line. They had to win at Washington. And Tiki Barber saved his job. He ran for over 200 yards, scored, I think, 2 or 3 touchdowns. And they got into the playoffs, I think, with an 8-8 record. And I think they went to Philadelphia that year and lost. But the next year, of course, the guys who wanted him fired now want to put him up Pro Football Hall of Fame because they win the Super Bowl the next year. But there's something to that. And I saw it then because, and I'll never forget, it was the 2011 season. So Coughlin had been there for a while. And you could see in the locker room, there was a feeling of, don't worry, we got this thing covered. No problem. Everything's good. And I remember saying to somebody, they're going to run the table again. And he said, they're not that good. I went, I don't care. You go into that locker room. They know they're going to make the plays to win. And they went out to San Francisco. And that was, to me, the best game that Eli Manning ever played. I mean, he got the crap beaten out of him that game. He kept bouncing up, throwing. And they won the game, beat a good San Francisco team. And so you just knew something was going on there. But they had, again, here we go, bought in by that time. Oh, Coughlin had been a hard ass at one point. Now he's kind of the guy that they love playing for. Because they knew the whole system. They realized it works. It actually works. You got to be careful, though, with some of those fourth downs. I agree with you. Like when you're talking about the Doug Peterson. I remember that Doug Peterson call in the Super Bowl because I thought that's gutsy, but I think he's right. But you got to be careful. And the flip side is Brandon Staley in L.A. I covered the Chargers for a year, and he's holding that team back. I mean, injuries and he are holding that team back. There's one thing to be aggressive. There's another to be reckless, and he's reckless.
Here's the reason why I'm with both of you guys on the culture thing. How many times when coaches have jumped into a new position have we not heard and change of culture? Every play. Every time there's a coaching change. We're going to change the culture. And the difference is going to be our culture. You watch how much the culture makes a difference with everybody says it. Not everybody wins.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
It's vastly overstated. That's why it bothers all three of us.
Yeah, Dan Campbell said that in Detroit. Look where they are. I mean, that's a team that needs a reshuffling from the top on down. But I mean, it changes. Change is good, right? That's what we always say. Change is good until it's not. And I recall once I was in San Diego and someone was talking about new coaching staff, how much better it is. And I said, how do you know? They haven't played a game. Yeah, they're different. What they're doing. They haven't played a game. Then training camp, they're doing things differently. Let's wait to see what happens. But what's going on in Philadelphia is somewhat remarkable to me because they're just, as I said, they've got all their bases covered. And I was on this program with you guys not that long ago questioning the quarterback. Jalen Hurts questioning the quarterback.
We all were.
And I didn't know whether you had a keeper there or not. I really didn't know. And I thought about defensive shortcomings. Have they covered their bases? God, the corners are playing well. They're just doing everything. And they're not turning the ball over. I mean, and everything is not turning the ball over, getting takeaways. Quarterback solid, the running game solid. They've got the wide receivers. I mean, it's just look at it and think that's a team that's built for a Super Bowl run. I'm not saying they're going there, but that's a team built for a Super Bowl run. Again, the Lane Johnson situation does concern me because 3 concussions in my mind is kind of that's the one where you go, beware. I covered a quarterback for many years out in San Francisco who had a litany of them, Steve Young, and eventually drove him from the game. And I remember talking to him then about that. And he was just saying, at some point you need to think about life after football. And he loves football. He just loves football. He says the happiest I've ever been when I'm in a huddle. But at some point, you got to let go. And I don't know if you guys remember, but in 2000, they did say you can find another place. And Mike Shannon said, come here to Denver. You'll start you tomorrow. And he said, no, I'm stepping away from him. Same thing with Troy Aikman. When he left Dallas, Norv Turner was in San Diego and said, come over here. You'll start. He goes, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, in a different way, we're seeing what's going on with Indianapolis again, moving off Matt Ryan. Ever since Andrew Luck's surprise retirement, now he had a litany of physical issues and more than obviously just concussions or head trauma. But anytime guys walk away and they're big-time players like that, it always can deeply affect the team. So I hear what you're saying on Lane Johnson. I want to go back to the quarterbacks, Clark, because you mentioned, I think we didn't know Jalen Hurts before the season started. There was hope that, everybody talks about his work ethic, the intangibles, the leadership. The Eagles constantly say behind the scenes, I don't know what his ceiling is, but he's going to reach it because he's that kind of guy who's just going to keep working and working and working. Do we turn the page on young quarterbacks too quickly? We saw Justin Fields in Chicago. People were trying to turn the page. All of a sudden, he's got some talent if you can tap into it. Does the league move on too quickly from young quarterbacks in today's environment?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Justin Fields, I'm not sold on Justin Fields.
No, I'm not saying, but there's a lot of people. You shouldn't be sold on him. I'm saying, do they pull the plug too quickly on these guys?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. And I think that's why Indianapolis is saying they're gonna stick with this kid for the rest of the season. You have to know when you roll these guys out there, they're going to play. And that's the thing in Pittsburgh. I mean, Kenny Pickett out there, he's going to play. I don't, and unless he gets hurt. And of course, he suffered a concussion, was in concussion protocol. But unless you get hurt, you're out there and you take your lumps. And again, I go back to a litany of guys, but Eli Manning, when they rolled him out, Kurt Warner was 5-4 that year, and they put Eli Manning out. Eli Manning was awful. He goes into Baltimore and he put up a Blutarski, 0.00. That was his passer rating. But they stuck with him. He won the last game of the season, and we know what happened there. I was covering John Elway out in San Diego when he lined up behind guard his rookie year, and then they had to push him up. And that's a true story. And they had Steve DeBerg to rescue him, but he stayed in the line. I don't think that's the case. I mean, certainly that's a long time ago. But keep in mind, remember what San Diego, and I'm talking about the Chargers, and I'm not talking about the LA Chargers. I'm talking about the San Diego Chargers, what they did with their quarterback position in 2005. Their quarterback was Drew Brees. Remember that? And then they drafted Eli Manning, traded Eli for Phillip Rivers, and Rivers is going to be the starter. But that was Brees' 4th year, and that's when Drew Brees became Drew Brees, and suddenly Rivers was nailed to the bench. They stuck with him for that period of time. I remember being in Philadelphia not that long afterwards and talking to Andy Reid about quarterbacks, and he said, I generally think by the 3rd year, you got to have it. I mean, if you don't have it, you probably move on. I think that was the feeling there. But here with some of these young QBs, I mean, what is going on in Indianapolis to me is very positive, because I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know if you've seen Matt Ryan lately, but I always thought he holds onto the ball too long. He's a quarterback I've seen before who's declining, descending, and just doesn't have any more. They hold on to it. They hold on. They take the sack. And so with these other guys, I mean, I don't know who you would use as a textbook example of giving up on him too soon. But to me, like I mentioned, Justin Fields at the beginning, and so did you, John, that the questions are valid. You see him one week, he looks pretty good. He's a good running quarterback. Let's see him when they're behind 21-3. Let's see him when they're behind 21-10. Like, can he get him back throwing the ball? And I don't know, is he Bobby Douglas or is he more than that? And I don't know the answer to that. But to me, we give a lot of these young guys latitude until we don't. And I think there is a short attention span with everything in general today. Everything. We want it overnight. But with quarterbacks, I don't think it's any different really than it has been for numbers of years.
But let me ask you about a young gun who's certainly going to get all the latitude he needs, but I have a fear on him, and that's Joe Cool in Cincinnati. Burrow goes for what? 481 this past week. But there's a but here. Talk about holding on to the ball too long. I know Cincinnati's line was Swiss cheese last year. They put assets into it. They improved the offensive line, and he's still taking a lot of sacks. Now, he didn't this past week when he threw for 481. But a couple of times I just, get it out, Joe, get it out. And he has such confidence and such cockiness. He thinks he can hold on to the ball every time for 6 seconds. And sometimes he gets it out and he throws a touchdown. And sometimes he just gets absolutely pile driven into the ground. You see the same thing with me, that maybe, but we know the talent's there, but maybe he's a little too confident in himself and his teammates.
Yeah, I don't know if that's possible, but maybe. I mean, I love watching him play. He's a special quarterback. But, I look at Joe Burrow, and you're right. They brought in numbers of offensive linemen. In fact, 4 of those 5 guys, I think, are the starting offensive line. And that was going to be the deal. We're going to protect this guy because he's our franchise player. And the first game, he gets sacked, 7 times. Second game, 6 times. You go, oh, my gosh. But what do we know about offensive lines? It takes them a while to kind of get together as a unit. Very different than anything else. It's 5 guys playing together. Look at those last 5 games. He's been sacked 11 times. Does he hold on it a little bit too long? Yeah, probably. He's got such great confidence in his arm, and you can see why when you watch him play. But yeah, he's a special guy. And I think, going back to John's question, it's people like Mahomes, Allen. Now, Josh Allen, John, remember, it took him really kind of 3 years. I mean, in the second year, I remember talking to a Buffalo station and said, I don't know about this guy. He misses a lot of throws. Yeah. But the success of some of these young guys, unparalleled success, Burrow, Allen a little bit late, but Mahomes, it spoils us. Then Roethlisberger, when he first came, it spoils us. And we think, it's overnight sensations. But sometimes it takes a while, and Josh Allen has taken a while. I look at him now and think, my goodness, I mean, he is just electric. He's fun to watch. And some of those throws, oh my goodness. But in answer to your question, Jody, yeah, he probably does in some of the cases, but to trust his arm so much. He's not getting hit as much, which is a great thing for Cincinnati and for Joe Burrow. And you look at those last 5 games, they've won 4 of them. That to me is a team that's now entered the picture with Kansas City and Buffalo. I mean, not just because they were the defending AFC champion, but those 3 teams really keep my eye on as we start turning the page to the second half of the season. As I said, the NFC, it's Philadelphia and a cast of thousands.
Yeah, and to your point, when you talk about it, and I saw your judgment column, by the way, which I love, Clark, and there's 2 guys at the top still. I think when you talk to people around the league that aren't performing like we typically expect, and that's Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
So your judgment through 7 weeks on those 2 guys and what the heck is going on. Because anytime we always talk about Tom at 45 and Father Time, and at some point, but Aaron Rodgers, man, he used to elevate people, and all of a sudden they're struggling in Tampa Bay, Green Bay. Is it just the offensive lines? Is it something else?
No, it's something else, I think. Hard to put your finger on it, but not so much with Brady's case. To me, I don't know this. No one may ever know it, but I do think the personal situation has had an impact on him.
Yeah.
He looks disinterested to me at times. And I thought what Roethlisberger said a couple of weeks ago about his demeanor during the Steelers game, I'm talking about Brady's demeanor, was right. Doesn't look like he's that into it, and he doesn't. And Brady was a gung-ho guy. And I think whatever's going on there, and we certainly have read all the stories, it's got to have an impact. He's got kids, got a wife, got a family. It's got to have an impact. But that said, they don't have any real speed on the outside. He misses Gronk. That was his go-to guy. They're not running the ball well at all. I mean, they had a 3rd and 1 last week, gave it to Fournette, got nothing. 4th and 1, gave it to Fournette, got nothing. That's just not like those teams. Brady sneaks for the first down. And the change in the head coach seems to have had an impact there too. For whatever reason. I mean, listen, I think Todd Bowles is a great defense coordinator, but the jury's out on him as a head coach. He did a nice job 1 year in the Jets, but because it's the Jets, we give him some latitude there. What's happening here in Tampa just doesn't make sense. And Brady, 3 points? Are you kidding me? Tom Brady against Carolina? I mean, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. By the same token, you look at Green Bay. I mean, losing Washington? You kidding me? You lose to the Jets? Oh, the Giant? What's going on here?
Yeah.
But the same thing, Rodgers looks somewhat disinterested. I don't know what the heck's going on there, except the obvious thing is he lost an all-pro receiver, one of the best in the game, and they don't seem to have anyone on the outside who fills the void. And he now looks like he's not that confident. And offensive line is an issue in both cases. I think more so in Green Bay. Rodgers doesn't look like he has confidence in the outside receivers, and he doesn't look like he has confidence in the offensive line either. And so he's hesitating. And then there was a throw last week, and I think it was pointed out on one of the shows I was watching. He had, I think it was Sammy Watkins, deep. It was wide open. And he hesitated, and he threw it on a check down as an incomplete pass. He went, what are you doing? That's the receiver you hit all the time. That was Devontae Adams. He's not there anymore.
Yeah, that's very true. And I'll say this about Green Bay losing. When they lost the Giants, how do you lose to the Giants? Neutral field. Oh, and then the Giants win 2 straight games. How do you lose to the Jets? Well, the Jets weren't as bad as everybody thought, and then they go and beat Denver the next week. So their losses against teams that we thought they had no business losing to might not have been as bad as we thought. So I want to ask you about those Jets. They're 5-2. They got crushed on Sunday with 2 major injuries. They lose their star rookie running back. They lose their second year, one of the best young guards in the NFL, Elijah Vera Tucker. They can't keep this up, can they?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah,
but
it hurts me. It hurts me to say that I don't think they can keep it up.
The pickup of Robinson, I think, was smart because losing Hall was a huge blow to them. But getting Robinson should mitigate that some. He's a good player. He doesn't have the upside that a guy like Hall does. I mean, Hall was, you saw that touchdown run last week. But the problem there for me is, again, if they fall behind is Zach Wilson the guy that's going to put you out there? And they've been running the ball. The identity that with that team was Breece Hall. That was the identity. Give him the ball, run. And not so much unlike what's going on with Philadelphia, except you don't have Jalen Hurts. So you've got a young quarterback who doesn't run as effectively and really doesn't run that much. But I just don't know about him. And I'm really, I don't trust him. And it's the same thing with the Giants. I don't trust Daniel Jones, but I'm trusting him more. With Zach Wilson, the jury's out. So where they are is they built that team around their head coach, Robert Saleh. I mean, the head coach is a defensive guy in San Francisco, aggressive, physical defenses. That's who they are. The GM is really, he's making the right choice of Hall, Gardner. They're getting good draft picks. They're getting good young talent. Defensively, that's a team that's going to give you trouble. They're going to give you headaches, and you saw what they've done recently. But offensively, they're going to take a little step back here, and more is going to be on the quarterback's shoulders. I don't know if they can handle it. I don't know that. And the other reason Joe Day said not so sure is because you're playing in the same division with the Buffalo Bills. I would say the New England Patriots, but who knows? Miami's better than people think. And so that's going to be a tough road within that division for a team like the Jets. I think it's great for football, for the NFL, that both New York teams are back on the map. I think you need that. Like I always said years ago, you need the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders. You need them to be good because you need people to really dislike them. You have a great Raider Nation following out there. But now you've got that with the two New York teams. That's good for the NFL.
Yeah, it has been a while for New York football. And that's where I'll end it at. Clark Judge, TOF. Last one from me, Clark. With the Eagles, obviously the only unbeaten. Then you have the Giants we've talked about. Minnesota's 5-1.
Yeah.
I don't believe in Minnesota or the Giants. We talked about the Giants. Somebody's got to come up and be the second best team. We kind of alluded to Dallas, San Francisco.
Dallas or San
should
Francisco.
Am I wrong though with Minnesota and the Giants?
I don't know about the Giants. I think you're wrong with Minnesota for one reason. Kirk Cousins, when's he won a big game? I thought he was about to launch himself 3 years ago when they beat New Orleans down there. Remember in a playoff game, and I thought finally, he's launched himself to the next level. So now it's not a playoff game you need to win. You need to win a conference championship game and then a Super Bowl. That hasn't happened with him. And his passer rating is down. I don't care about passer rating, but they're playing well. I don't trust him in big games. I just don't. I think he's a guy who puts up big numbers.
So.
Doesn't win big games. And then for the same reason, Daniel Jones. I mean, when's he won a big game? They haven't won anything in New York. It's a great story. But I want to see them play against the Eagles. And, if they win or if they play them close or they play them tough, okay, now we've got somebody who can push them. To me right now, it's Dallas. And I still believe in San Francisco, maybe because I covered them. But I just think that they're going to come back at some point. Garoppolo's not playing very well right now, but I don't blame him so much as I do the organization. He didn't take one snap in training camp, guys, because they were going to move him. He didn't take one. They kept him apart from the team. He hasn't had a training camp. So people saying he's holding him back. Sure he is, because they held him back. What do we know about Garoppolo? He wins, and he wins. He can win big games. And that defense is physical and aggressive. So I think they'll be the team to emerge out of the West. So my guess at this point, John, would be Dallas and San Francisco. Dallas, again, defense is playing really well. You get the quarterback back. You're running the ball effectively. And I'll throw something out to you guys. It just seems to me we're kind of going back to old school football in some of these towns. Philadelphia being Exhibit A, the Bears last night being Exhibit B. Run the ball and play defense. That's the way it used to be until you had guys like, Mahomes and Manning and I'm talking about Peyton, throwing the ball all over the place and Josh Allen. But in some of these places, they're winning by running the ball effectively. San Francisco runs more than they pass. San Francisco does. And maybe your listeners will say, well, it's because they have Garoppolo. Garoppolo's a decent quarterback. And when he has to dial it up, he can. But right now he's not. And he's not playing well. That team's not playing well. Long season, they will come back.
Now that they got Christian McCaffrey, they're definitely going to be running it more than they throw it.
Yeah, sure. But the thing about McCaffrey, Jody, thing about McCaffrey is he's perfect for that organization.
Yeah,
the way it's been built. It was Roger Craig in the late 80s, Ricky Waters in the early 90s. As I said, I covered that team. When those are the guys catching the ball out of the backfield, they ran effectively, but they were as effective catching the ball out of the backfield. That's McCaffrey.
And then Ricky Waters came to Philadelphia and said, for who, for what? After he caught all those balls in San Francisco for all those years.
That's right.
Clark, great stuff. We appreciate you coming on board with us. When does the newest episodes of the Eye Test for Two podcast drop? How can the people get it when they want it?
Oh, sure. They can look at the eyetestfor2.com website, or they can go fullpress.com, full press coverage, right? Fullpresscoverage.com.
Got Sal Powell on there.
Yeah, that's right. We had Sal last week talking about the Eagles, but we generally do our shows on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. It depends on when we're getting the guests, but then I put it on Twitter, and I guess that's where John saw it. But I appreciate you plugging that. I should have. I'm one of these days. It's supposed to be this week. Going to be back on si.com, but we're putting that site back together. So I would hope to be back there again. Thanks for asking. And I have a question for you guys before I sign off.
Shoot.
What's bigger in Philadelphia now, the Phillies or the Eagles?
This week, the Phillies. But
yeah, for this very short window, the Phillies. But 10 minutes after it's over, win or lose, it's right back to the Eagles.
Yeah, okay, good.
Very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on here. Always a pleasure.
You. That's Clark Judge.
Thanks, Clark.
From host and writer for Talk of Fame Network podcast. Eye Test for Two is something you should be checking out as well. All right, Mac and Mac coming back. Running out of time. We got to put a ball in the show.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Action News at 11 with Rick Williams. It's the team you trust to bring it all together. The stories that impact your community, a sports roundup for the locals, and the AccuWeather forecast you depend on. Action News at 11 with Rick Williams.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Since 1977 at Rafferty Subaru, we have always been about our customers and the community. Early on, a safe and durable option, we've evolved to become the best overall brand according to Kelley Blue Book. Over the last 14 years, we've donated thousands of dollars through the Subaru Share the Love event and found homes for hundreds of pets. The Rafferty family is proud of our 45 years in business. This month, celebrate our anniversary with special financing on select models. Visit us and see why.
At Stateside Vodka, every new customer gets the world's best rocks glass, free.
What's that?
A rocks glass?
You're telling me that bottle is cut in half?
You could say that.
Holy shit.
And you're telling me I can get one of these glasses for free?
That's right. One free rocks glass per customer with each first-time purchase of Stateside Vodka. So good, it just disappears.
We're pretty much out of time. J Mac, good show today. I love having Clark Judge on.
Clark's awesome.
He's got a good grasp of the National Football League, has for years, and I think he does a very good job of explaining it. And you can debate with him a little bit too, which is a lot of fun. So he already texted me during the break. Says, I love coming on with you guys. I said, we'll get you back on again before the playoffs. Fear not, buddy. We will tap into your expertise. All right, tomorrow we got Mike Gill joining us. And who am I forgetting?
You're better with the cataloging than me.
I know.
We do have
shame on me. I can't. We got somebody for. Kempski's on tomorrow.
Oh, Jimmy Kempski. Yeah,
Jimmy K will be here tomorrow.
Yeah, Jimmy's going to be early. Mike's going to be late. Jimmy was the one who brought up Rodney McLeod. So yeah,
interesting. And I told Jimmy we need to get him on because trade week is always lead up to what are you going to get back if you lose more free agents, the compensatory picks. Kempski covers that better than anybody else, and that does play into NFL trade week. So Kempski tomorrow early, Gill late, McDonald and McMullen will be here for all 2 hours. Unless you're not. You're going to be here, right, John?
Yeah, I'm going to be here. Although the Eagles are back to work tomorrow. So I'm going to have a long day, Jody.
Suck it up. Suck it up and get it done, McMullen. You had a bye week.
Always do.
Get it done. We'll get it done tomorrow in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate, inside the locker room, and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.